It is time to duke it out. Should you get a 1440p monitor or go all out with 4K? Now, Eric here and I spent a very long time in a meeting last week debating this topic, so much that I said, let's stop wasting time in this meeting and do this on stream next week. Eric, welcome to the show.
Whitson, it is never a waste of time to tell you how you're wrong.
That's okay. Fair enough. Okay. All right. Let's talk about how this came about. And we're going to talk mostly about desktop monitors, but we'll get to laptops too, because I think that the conversation applies to laptops as well in this case. As this topic actually goes back almost a year. When we released our new 27-inch ROG Strix monitors, there was a 4K 27-inch model in that lineup. And we announced them on the stream about a year and a half ago. And I remember a lot of people being like, why would you want a 4K monitor that's that small, right? Like, aren't you missing out on the benefits at that size? Isn't it sharp enough at 1440p? And that was like, a lot of people were saying that. And then after it came out, it seems like things have flipped. A lot of people have come out of the woodwork saying that 4K at 27 inches is amazing. And oh my gosh, it's totally worth the upgrade over 1440p, even at 27 inches. So you have this kind of split between, and I think some of it's between people who have seen it in person and people who haven't. But it may depend on your preferences too. So Eric, you were the one arguing for 4K 27 inches. Hit me.
Yes, I am that guy. I saw it in person. I like it. I want it. It's a good thing. But let's really try to dig into the details here, because I think it's worth actually really talking about. Yeah, I actually want to start kind of a step back before we talk about 4K at 27 inches. I just want to talk about why I want 4K at all.
I think we'll be on the same page here.
For me, it's a big question is the performance budget, right? Like when you're optimizing a game, you have a certain amount of budget based on the performance of your graphics card that you get to spend.
And you pay that. You're not talking about money. You're talking about budgeting your frames, basically. Mm-hmm, how many frames do I want to spend on a higher resolution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in particular, if you've got even just one of the mainstream models from this year's lineup of graphics cards, you have a lot of budget to spend, and the question is, where do you want to spend it? And first and foremost is, of course, FPS. You want to be making sure that you're getting kind of your floor for FPS, whatever that is. And that varies depending on the game you're playing and whatnot. But, outside of really competitive shooters where I'm just shooting for as much FPS as possible, I'm aiming around 120, 144, something like that. But after that point, I start going, okay, what else do I want to spend this budget on? Do I want another 30 FPS? Or do I want a higher graphics preset? Do I want ray tracing? Do I want to maybe flip from DLSS over to DLAA? Side note, DLAA is my favorite NVIDIA thing.
Oh, I have some notes about that later. Because, yeah, it is awesome.
And can I come back another day and just rant at you for an hour about how amazing DLAA is?
Jake's going to go on vacation again.
Yeah, let's just give Jake a call and tell him to go on vacation next week again. So resolution is another one of those things that I'm quite happy to spend some budget on, right? If it's available and I can have the frame rate that I want while getting a higher resolution, I'm going to spend that budget there kind of every time. And I think you're on the same page with me there, right? When
100%.
you switch to 4K, what benefits do you see?
So I actually, on this TV behind me, I try to game at 4K whenever possible. It's a 4K TV, and I am one of those people that aliasing, especially temporal aliasing, shimmering and all that stuff in foliage and trees, that drives me nuts. Absolutely bonkers. So I will 100%. My floor, you mentioned your floor is 120 to 144. I've got a 3080 Ti actually in this machine because I had to send the 5090 to Jake. So my floor is actually 60 to 90 for most games. If I can hit 60 and get rid of as much of that aliasing as possible, I would rather have 60 with almost no aliasing than go 90 or 120 with some shimmering. That's where I am. And if I can turn on ray tracing, all the better. So I'm 100% with you there. at a large screen size.
Absolutely. So I'll also throw out there that just kind of it's a great match for games with really detailed, nicely crafted textures. Just anything in the AAA space that has kind of a higher resolution texture pack, you just get so much more of that when you're playing at 4K. One game where I really noticed that is Death Stranding. Have you messed with those?
Yeah, I've played Death Stranding a little bit, but it was mostly on the Ally, actually.
Play on the Ally. Gotcha. Yeah. Um, One thing about it is that it's such kind of this immersive like landscape sort of game. Like you're always kind of looking to the horizon. There's these gigantic mountains all around you. You're climbing, you're walking, you're soaking it all in. And just to my eye, all the differences in detail in the world, it kind of is transformative to that experience. A contrast to the might be say like Doom Eternal, where I'm zooming past all of the landscape at 5 million miles per hour. I'm focused a lot more on projectiles than the scenery. But certain games like that 4K just brings this lifelike detail to just everything around you. Another good example is Indiana Jones.
Oh,
That
yeah.
really comes to life if you can bump up the resolution.
So I am 100% with you on all this. As I mentioned, I feel the same way when I'm gaming back here. No arguments for me that 4K is objectively a better resolution. However,
One more thought.
okay, go ahead.
I don't know if I can admit this on the ROG stream, but I'm going to say it anyway. I occasionally use my computer for things that are not games.
Whoa. No, we talk about that all the time. We're building stuff for that. That's the whole point. I mean, that's the target audience for the Zephyrus line of laptops, right? A lot of our gear, absolutely.
And I think outside of games, there's really no argument. Just more resolution is just better. There's like almost no point with a reasonable product you can buy right now where I would say, nope, too much resolution. Like when you're browsing the web, writing something, doing spreadsheets, editing a photo, working in CAD, like literally anything. The higher resolution looks nicer, is easier on your eyes, is nicer to use.
Well, and you can get a little bit more real estate depending on how far you're willing to shrink stuff too, right? And this is like something I've thought about on laptops, especially because when you're talking about laptop resolution, yeah, the screen is a lot smaller. You're talking about 14, 15, 16, maybe 18 inches. And 1080p is pretty sharp at 16 inches, all things considered. But because it's only 1080p at such a small size, you don't feel like you have nearly as much real estate to line up multiple windows and things like that. So yes, again, in that case, more resolution, more better. But at 27 inches, 1440p is pretty sharp. The pixels per inch is dense enough that, I guess I never thought to myself, this is too pixelated. I need something sharper. So I'm with you on 4K, objectively not taking into account screen size. Once you're at 27, I find that I have enough screen real estate and the gaming graphics are pretty sharp. So 4K 27, is it worth the upgrade at that screen size?
I mean, I'm not trying to ding 1440p monitors here, but I'm telling you, I've seen them side by side. I've sat there and went back and forth between really good 1440p monitor and 27-inch 4K monitor and was like, oh yeah, that is really sharp. That is a very big difference. Honestly, just in terms of raw pixel count, we're talking about a lot more points on the screen where you can have more detail, and it really comes out. Do you remember when we were at the last Consumer Electronics Show back in January, right? We had the ROG Swift OLED PG27 UCDM set up with Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
And I talked to a lot of people about that monitor. A lot of folks coming through our room, a lot of folks checking it out. Absolutely no one was like, hey, this image is too detailed. There's too much going on here. Right. And I think partly it's just because like it achieves a level of PPI where the pixels kind of stop mattering. They stop being pixels. And I think like that's a part of display specs that really kind of matters to me. Like I want to like hit that point where like I'm at the capabilities of my eyes. I want to hit that point. Like with my smartphone, right? Like we talk
Right.
about having a smartphone display that's has such high resolution that even when you're in bed doom scrolling, like you're not looking at pixels anymore. And
Right.
that's what I really kind of see with 27-inch 4K. It's like that level of sharpness and clarity.
Okay. So let's talk. You mentioned the Swift OLED PG27 UCDN. This is probably kind of the highest end of our 27-inch 4K OLED monitors. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
You've got a 240 hertz refresh rate. So if you do have a high-end graphics card, you can push that frame rate as high as you want, and you'll have some kind of room to grow in the future. Plus, a lot of those extra features like the Neo proximity sensor, which turns the monitor off when you walk away to slow down that degradation over time that OLEDs have. A lot of really cool stuff here. The price here in the US, that's $1,200. So let's say you've got a little bit less to spend, or you're willing to give up certain aspects of that experience. We've also got the ROG Strix OLED variant of that monitor. Remember, Swift is the top of our lineup, guys, and Strix is kind of the next step. This one is pretty similar though, because it's 4K, it's 27 inches, it's 240 hertz, it's OLED, right? It's got the Neo proximity sensor. What are the main? They're both QD OLED, even, I think. Yeah, they're both
Yeah,
QD
they're
OLED.
both QD OLED.
So is this a
The
previous gen panel?
It's really about the connectivity selection is kind of the headlining difference.
Okay,
The higher end Swift model has the kind of future looking DisplayPort 2.1 port,
which I know a lot of people really care
and
about. If that's what you
you know,
want.
we're right in the middle of the first graphics card generation that has those kind of outputs. I do think like that's something that should be on your mind going forward. But you know, I can also see people making a case for, you know, I don't need it in my monitor this year. So I'm happy that we have a couple options out there.
For most people, the DisplayPort compression of DisplayPort 1.4 is going to be fine, unnoticeable, not going to affect most of your day-to-day life. It's a little bit more in a lot of edge cases right now. So if you want to save some money, the Strix OLED 27 inches still a really amazing choice. Now, if you can't quite swing an OLED, we also have the monitor I mentioned earlier, the ROG Strix XG27 UCG. This is much more affordable because it's an LED panel, but it's a really good LED panel. This is one of our fast IPS displays, and it has dual mode. You can do 4K at 160 hertz, or if you're doing esports and stuff like that, you can drop down to 1080p and crank it up to 320 hertz. And on these fast IPS displays, you're not getting a lot of ghosting and motion blur and things like that. They are really actually very fast, very, very clear. I was really impressed with these when they came out.
You know, I say this quite frequently. Like gaming monitors right now are a fantastic bargain. Like I know that there are premium cutting edge models on the market that are really tempting. The FOMO calls out. You look at the LCD monitor space, like there are just no compromises in the gaming monitors that are out there right now. Like you look at this monitor right here, right? The XG27 UCG, like you've got a great stand on that. You have a fast IPS panel that's going to give you all the gaming specs that you want. You're even going above and beyond with the dual mode functionality here, and I really like the dual mode bouncing between 4K and full HD.
It's
That's
nice
a
to
really
have.
good combination.
I mean,
Hmm.
it we've kind of LCD technology is so mature that we've like basically perfected it at this point, right? Like that's why we can get a monitor this good at this affordable of a price point. And yeah, like OLED is kind of the next step, and it is a big jump to OLED. But if you can't swing an OLED, these monitors are still really great. I would have no qualms about gaming on one of these, and I still kind of do, sort of. Now, all that said, I do still think there is an argument for 1440p here. And I think you brought it up. A big part of it is budget, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of the power that you have behind your PC. And there are exceptions, and I'll get to those in a sec. But if you don't have a high-end graphics card and you're not going to be able to push 4K at the frame rate you want, 1440p monitors are still going to be really sharp at 27 inches. It still looks really good. And I think it is probably the better buy if you can't make use of that 4K. So here, for example, is our ROG Strix OLED 27-inch 1440p. This is a glossy WOLED panel for $700. That's a big jump down from the 1,000, 1,200 of the 4K models. And again, at 27 inches, you've still got a pretty sharp PPI. So this is a good option if you've got maybe, I mean, because you mentioned modern mid-range cards can do a lot, but maybe you've got the mid-range card from last generation or the generation before, you're trying to stretch out its life, you can still go really far with 1440p, I think. And then here's an LCD version for only $220 on sale right now. $220 for a fast IPS display at 1440p 27. That's bonkers.
Absolutely. Like, listen, I will talk all day about how much I love gaming at 4K, but just being straight, like, nobody should feel bad. Nobody should feel like they're like a second level citizen here in the Republic if they're gaming at 1440p. Like, I feel like that is a really balanced choice, and I particularly like it for people who have an itch for competitive games.
I think that that's where we're seeing a lot of the kind of the targeting for some of these monitors is moving a bit more toward esports. And look, I will say something. You mentioned DLAA earlier. The thing is that the line between these two is not so clear and obvious of like, if your graphics card is less powerful than a 3060 Ti or whatever, then you should go 1440p. If it's more powerful, you go 4K. Now, I just pulled that out of my hat. I don't actually know what because there is no straight line like that, right? The line is very blurry because of tools like DLSS and DLAA, right? You can bridge the gap in either direction with those tools if you need to. So let's say you want to get the 4K monitor to kind of future-proof your setup, because a lot of people will buy a monitor and keep it for like 10 years, right? So if you're buying a new monitor today and you're looking ahead, and you're saying, okay, I may have a little bit of an older graphics card right now. It's maybe not going to push 4K at great frame rates, but I plan on upgrading in a couple of years, and I want to be ready for that and not regret my monitor decision. You could grab a 4K monitor and use DLSS to upscale games to 4K at quite good frame rates, right? You could also do the opposite. If you have a 1440p monitor, you get a new graphics card, you got all these sweet new frames, you're willing to spend some of that on better image quality, but you don't have the money to upgrade your monitor too, you could use DLAA or something like DLDSR to render the game at 4K and then intelligently scale it down to 1440p, and it's going to look better than native 1440p.
Whitson, you make an excellent point, right? Like, the way you spend your performance budget really matters, and you have a lot of choice, and you can do a lot with the different options between like the NVIDIA app, between a fully featured PC game, to make the most out of your hardware with a variety of choices. And I do think that like DLAA is sometimes hard to use and hit the other sort of threshold requirements that I have at 4K, so I don't use it as often as I'd like. If I were gaming primarily at 1440p, it might be on like all the
day,
time.
All day, for sure. Some people in chat asking about 32 inches. We'll get there in a sec because I think that is a valid point in this discussion too. But first, I want to briefly mention, you mentioned doing other stuff on your computer. I think content creation in particular changes the calculus of this. If you are a content creator, I think that gives 4K even more of an edge, because like if you're rendering 4K footage, like you probably want to render it in that native resolution, right?
Oh, absolutely. In an ideal world, and let's be frank, man, like today's like professional photographers, videographers, they're not shooting in 4K. Like we've blasted straight into 6K, 8K. There are some crazy high resolution options right now. And just the display space is almost like catching up to where cameras can go. And that's really valuable. Just to nerd out for a moment, right? Like, let's think about why like someone might want to film like a feature movie or the latest like Disney Plus show in 8K, even though consumers, people watching the channel are going to be watching it in full HD. Like, why do we need all this resolution?
Because you can crop out part
Well,
of the screen.
You can crop out 3/4 of the screen
Yeah, exactly. So
and
you have way
still
more
have
room to frame.
without losing any detail.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
So you shoot it wide, you go back in, you can get everything right.
And we have some higher
So-
resolution displays for stuff like this too, right? Outside the ROG lineup.
Oh yeah.
Now things are getting a little
Mhm.
weird. We'll go
Yeah.
through these really quick, but I do want to mention them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should stop nerding out so much about these, but yeah, the ProArt lineup, we have an 8K 32-inch option, HDR, excellent color performance, easy ways of switching between color profiles, lots of things that really matter to creators. You can drop down to the ProArt Display 6K. That one in particular, like the price is so competitive compared to the reference monitors of the professional world. Like it's a fantastic deal for the color performance that you get, and it's packing 6K into a 32-inch frame. That's an incredible PPI on a display that large.
And then, of course,
But
if you want to drop down even further, we've got 5K
we've got
too.
the 5K 26-inch. Now this is a good model to kind of generalize, right? Because I've been talking primarily about like kind of big budget studio sort of things. Like let's talk about like the rest of us for the moment. Like I think all of us appreciate just how much easier it is to read text on a screen with like a really lusciously high PPI. Just you get rid of the jagged edges, you get rid of the fuzziness, everything is so clear. Whether you're using that monitor for office tasks, programming, spreadsheets, if you're in CAD software doing product design or architecture, like all these situations where, to boil it down, you're looking at a bunch of really skinny lines all the time. The high PPI monitor shows its value like every time. Honestly, if these monitors had like a high refresh rate, toss in some adaptive sync, I mean, my wallet might be crying, but man, it would be hard to ignore that right there.
Yes. Okay. And adaptive sync, hey, that used to be a gaming only feature. Pretty nice.
It's very generalized these days, and we're very grateful for that.
All right. I see a lot of people mentioning 32-inch in chat. Don't worry. I had planned to mention this because I think that is another place where the calculus changes. If you go to 32 inches and you're gaming, our original debate was about 27 inches. If you go 32 inches, I think 4K is all but essential at that size because you have such a larger screen that 1440p at that size is fine, right? You could totally game at that, but the PPI, right, the pixels per inch, is not nearly going to be nearly as dense, and you're going to want that extra resolution that 4K has at 32 inches, in my opinion, if you can swing it.
The only kind of use case I might talk about, like there are folks looking for like 32-inch sort of size monitors, but they're kind of like lean back.
Yeah, totally.
With a controller sort of gamers. It's not like an across the room sort of thing, but there are moments. But broadly, if you're buying a monitor for your desktop, especially keyboard and mouse, I feel 32 inches needs to be 4K.
That's kind of where I am too. And this is our ROG Swift OLED PG32 UCDM. If you want like the best 32-inch monitor that we offer today, I would say this is it, right?
It's so can I admit that I have a slightly different one on my desk? I have the UCDP, and the only difference, but I love it, is the dual mode feature.
So this is the one that doesn't have dual mode, right? This is just a 4K
Mhm.
QD OLED panel at 440 hertz, which is going to be plenty for most people. If you want the dual mode, and what the UCDP, what does that dual mode go to? Is that one 480?
480 hertz
Yeah,
at full
the
HD.
480 on that is nuts. So if you do, I mean, at 32 inches, I think you are probably, most people at 32 inches are probably more likely to be playing a lot of AAA games, really high res graphics, things like that. But if you do occasionally play some esports, that UCDP version of this monitor is going to be nice because you can crank up the resolution. And on that one, can you shrink down the window too, so you have that smaller field of view? Yeah, so that's nice for esports
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
because
you have
32
that
inches is a
aspect
little
ratio
big.
control.
Yeah, that's a really handy feature.
Yeah. If I try to play Valorant on 32 inches, I miss stuff on the edges of the screen.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
Now that said, we also have a Strix OLED 32-inch variant that also has dual mode. This one goes from 4K at 165 hertz to 1080p at 330 hertz, but you save $100 on it. Actually, usually a little bit more, but this one's on sale right now. So this one might be the better value at this particular moment. But at normal list price, this one's going to save you a few $100 if you don't think you're going to be able to push 480 hertz or whatever for the UCDP, or you want that dual mode. Yeah, that's another good option. And then, that's it.
Let me throw out there
too far.
like one more use of the dual mode that I feel like doesn't get as much press, right? Like often we think of the faster refresh rate as like the esports mode. But can we acknowledge that every year or so there's like one or two games that just crushes even like the best hardware on the market?
Sure.
Like Alan Wake 2, for example, right? That came out, and when it launched, there basically wasn't a graphics card on the market that was playing it at 4K with all the bells and whistles without some form of upscaling.
Right.
Like there's like these spots where games are pushing like things so far forward that you might say, you know what? I would rather play this at 1080p with all of these graphical goodies than at 4K with these like certain compromises in the graphics settings. And in that case, I like having the dual mode right there and available. And it's not the same as just sort of dropping the resolution on a standard monitor. Like you have the proper like you have the proper sort of scanning settings so that you get a good image. In particular with these IPS models, you've got the correct overdrive so that you're getting the clear image without the ghosting.
I had not considered that as a use case. Playing Alan Wake at 1080p would be a hard thing for me to want to try to do, but with the extra, you might be right. I don't know. I'd have to try it and see.
That's a balance, yeah.
Food for thought. Okay.
I don't know if I want to wade into these waters, but I think Borderlands 4 is another point of discussion.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the Borderlands 4 is different because Borderlands 4 has, like, Alan Wake is so realistic, right? Like it almost looks photographic, whereas Borderlands 4 has that really stylized art style. And in that case, it's like, well, if you're dropping down in resolution, is it more noticeable with that kind of cell shaded art style? Are you more likely to see the pixels with those really straight, flat lines? I don't know. I think I might keep that one at 4K for that reason. But and just just turn down the some of the eye candy in order to keep it at a good frame rate. But I don't know. It depends. I do want to briefly mention laptops. We talked about this a little bit, but the PPI of a 1080p display at 16 inches is actually quite good. Or on our displays, to be 1200p because we use 16 by 10 displays. But I think, again, the extra resolution is a little bit more worth it on laptops because the screens are so small and you want to have that extra real estate for other things if you're using for your laptop for something other than gaming. If you're going just gaming, I guess 1080p could work, but also keep in mind the other specs of the displays on laptops. You don't have quite as many choices when it comes to laptop displays. You'll just have a couple different SKUs with different displays in them. And sometimes the 1080p displays might not have as much color or response time, performance, things like that. So make sure you're looking at the full picture when you're looking at laptop displays. And some resolutions might not be available in your region, right? So it's just a bit of a different battle, even though a lot of the underlying tech is functionally the same. So it's just something to consider if you're trying to transpose this discussion to laptops. Guys, that is it for our main topic today. As always, this is only part of our show. If you want to see the full ROG Pulse stream, you can tune in live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We do giveaways, we talk about games, we answer your questions, and all kinds of other stuff. So be sure to watch live to see the full show. And if you want to see even more awesome ROG gear, you can follow and subscribe right here to the ROG Twitch and YouTube channels. Jake, who's not here today, streams games on Tuesdays and Fridays here using ROG machines, and it is always a good time.